Hello, BookTube. Over the course of this first week of February, I have been reading Full Metal Alchemist by Hiromu Arakawa. On Thursday, my brother asked if my mom wanted to come over to spend some time with her grandchildren, my nieces and nephews. And the plan was that we would go over there. So, since the time that we would be over there is when I normally read, I decided to read the 3 volumes of Full Metal Alchemist, volumes 22, 23, and 24, Thursday morning. And then, after I had finished those 3 volumes, my brother texted me to cancel, that something had come up, so we're pushing the visit to this coming weekend. So that gave me some time to actually finish off Full Metal Alchemist on Thursday. So I went ahead and read volumes 25, 26, and 27, the final volume. And so that left today, Friday, free. So I decided to go ahead and read the 5 volumes of manga that I pre-ordered in January, which I hauled a few days ago. So let's get going with that because I had a lot of fun with these 5 volumes. I'm going to go in descending order from the furthest along in the series to the more recent. So, Volume 36 of Black Clover by Yuki Tabata. Black Clover is a fantasy series about a young man named Asta who, in a world in which everybody has magic, Asta doesn't. However, that doesn't stop Asta from aspiring to join the Magic Knights and becoming eventually the Wizard King, the supreme commander of the Magic Knights in the Clover Kingdom. Excuse me again. Asta's foster brother, who is a prodigy when it comes to magic, also aspires to join the Magic Knights and become the Wizard King. So the brothers have a very healthy, friendly rivalry. The two care about each other deeply, and that is one of the joys of this series. Asta joins the Black Bulls, an order of Magic Knights who are incredibly quirky, but with Asta's presence becomes very much a found family, and it's delightful. Joins the more prestigious Golden Dawn, and eventually rises to be its second in command, and as of the final arc, its actual commander. So, the Black Bulls go on a number of missions to defend the Clover Kingdom from all sorts of threats. Volume 36 is part of the final storyline, so there's only a few volumes left. In this final arc, a man once admired by all has become the final antagonist, and he wishes to impose a world of perfect equality with himself as the Wizard Emperor. So basically, everybody would be the same, except for him, who would be monumentally more powerful than everybody else. Asta's presence disrupts this plan, and so our final villain tried to kill Asta at the very beginning of the arc, but he is instead sent away to his commander Yami's homeland, the Land of the Sun, where he gets some training and is in this volume sent back as the final battles are taking place. Has engaged several clones of the final villain. Noelle is taking on a character from her past, and everything's going to hell. Meanwhile, the Black Bulls are working on a way to get Asta back to the Clover Kingdom so he can be fresh to the fight. And it is just awesome. This volume was so good. It's been far too long since I read Black Clover. And I was, by the end of this volume, just a giggling, joyous mess. It's so good. So let's look at a few images from here. That's Snowball about to take on her opponent. There. That's our main villain, realizing that Yuno is a bit more than he initially planned for. Oh, this is a great image. So this is a character, Seki, who was a bit of a bully at the very beginning and who rose to a bit of prominence by accident, who at this point is finally getting his act together. And it's quite good. His character growth is really quite good. So let's see here. And that's the Black Bull standing firm. Just so good. And I'm going to show you one more. That is just, this was wonderful. I also really enjoyed volume 21 of Tolapa and Hanako-kun by AidaIro. Tolapa and Hanako-kun is a contemporary series set in a very haunted school in Japan. Nene is a student at the school who is told that if she goes to a specific stall, performs a set ritual, she will be able to summon the spirit known as the Tolapa Hanako-san and be granted a wish. Nene goes to the stall, performs the ritual, and summons Hanako-san. However, this particular Hanako-san is in fact the ghost of a young boy, Amane, who, since he's the ghost of somebody younger than her, goes by Hanako-kun. Amane attempts to grant Nene her wish. It goes terribly. And so, in exchange for getting her out of her issue, Nene agrees to become Amane's assistant. And she eventually helps him regulate the relationships between the living and the supernatural at this school. There are 7 major mysteries or supernaturals, of which Amane, as the 7th, has a regulatory authority over the other 6 and the other supernaturals at the school. They are joined by a young trainee exorcist named Ko, who initially attempts to exorcise Amane, but later becomes best of friends with him and Nene. There is at the school a supernatural who seeks to upend the status quo, to make these supernaturals more vicious, more violent, including the major mysteries, the major supernaturals, for which Amane, Nene, and Ko have to go and remove a seal of power from each of them, sort of removing them from the hierarchy and sort of depriving them of a significant amount of their power. The instigator behind this is revealed to be the ghost of Amane's twin brother, Tsukasa, who is a little shit, and who in this volume thoroughly shows why he is a little shit. He is joined by the school broadcast club, neither of whom are entirely human, including Nagisa, I think it's Nagisa, the cover model, who was revealed to be immortal. So this volume begins with the preparations for it's Natsuhiko. He's Natsuhiko. The volume begins with the preparations for a school festival, for which the school broadcasting club takes the opportunity to cause a disruption that will allow Natsuhiko to get into the clock tower, which is the domain of the first seeded of the mysteries, timekeepers, and basically begin an assault on their territory, which would then force Nene to go in and rip off their Gurashiro, their seal, because thereafter pretty much removing the seven mysteries from their positions. And so a lot of the school festival is shown, and the beginning of the Timekeepers arc. And during this part, Amane and Nene go into the Clockkeeper's boundary and are frozen. And Tsukasa does something shocking. And he then attempts to force Nene to remove the Gurashiro, and they play a game of tag. Nene trying to get away from Tsukasa, and Tsukasa trying to force Nene to remove the Gurashiro. And this volume was a lot of fun. I especially liked the interactions between Amane and Nene and Ko and his friend Mitsuba, who is a ghost of the ghost of a young man who was a classmate of his who died the previous year, who Tsukasa transformed into a more malevolent ghost and forced Amane to destroy that version of Mitsuba, although a version of Mitsuba was later recreated and made the third school mystery. And he and Ko have a very interesting friendship. It's so much fun. I want to show you, because one thing I love about the artwork of this series is the artwork. The artwork is just really, really gorgeous. And one neat thing about this volume is that this version of Mitsuba finally sees the original Mitsuba's mother at the school festival, and it's really neat. You know, it's just really a lot of fun. Really enjoyed this. So, moving on to volume 13 of A Record of Ragnarok by Azychika. Shinya Umemura, and Takumi Fukui. So this volume continues the fight between Buddha and the seven gods of fortune, who are revealed in this series to be seven aspects of an eighth god, Zerofuku, who is in the form of a child who resents Buddha for moseying in on his turf. Zerofuku attempted to bring joy to the world by taking all of the world's misery onto himself. And this basically transformed him into a more dour god. And during his fight with Buddha, his character began to change, and he began to see himself in a new light. However, it's at that point that Zerofuku undergoes another transformation into Hajin, a demon king. And this is brought about by the intervention of a future fighter in this series. So, Record of Ragnarok is a series of one-on-one death matches between champions of humanity, the Einherjar, and champions of the gods, in order to decide whether or not humanity will survive or be exterminated for its sins. The gods decided to exterminate humanity, but the Valkyrie Brunhilde objected and invoked the Ragnarok clause, which gives humanity a chance to survive by winning the majority of 13 matches. Buddha was originally set to join the fight on the god side, but instead chose to fight for humanity. And he had some beef with the seven fortune gods, and they were formed into Zerofuku. And then once Zerofuku was kind of coming down from his temper tantrum, he was forcibly transformed into Hajin. And this volume focuses on that fight, and it is amazing. Absolutely amazing. Moving on to let's look at some images real quick. And I love how this fight wraps up. I really love how this fight wraps up. So, moving on to Gachiakuta Volume 5 by Kei Urana. This is a series about a young man named Rudo, who originally lived in the slums of an artificial environment called the Sphere. He is one day accused of a crime that he did not commit and exiled from the Sphere by being dumped into a garbage pit on the surface of the world that the Sphere orbits or floats above. There, Rudo wakes up in a gigantic dump and is attacked by a trash monster. He is saved by a young man named Injin, who has the ability who is a giver. He can imbue a precious object with supernatural power and transform it into a weapon. Rudo himself is also a giver, and Injin recruits Rudo into his organization, the Cleaners, with the proviso that the Cleaners help Rudo find his way back to the Sphere so he can enact bloody vengeance. A young woman named Amo appears to have some knowledge about a way to get back to the Sphere. And so Rudo, Injin, and a few other Cleaners go to visit her. However, it seems to be a trap. And Amo assaults the group and turns a few of them against each other using her own vital instrument. And when Rudo comes out of it, oh boy, is he pissed. And one thing I liked about this volume is dealing with like the constant process of growing up. And I do really love the artwork in this series. It is really, really good. Let me see here. Yeah. And there also seems to be something interesting about Rudo that will be explored in future volumes that I'm quite excited to So there's that. So this was really good. And also really enjoyed Volume 4 of Snowball Earth by Yuhiro Tsujistugu. So Snowball Earth is a series about a young man named Tetsuo who piloted a mecha called Yukio against constant invasions of kaiju. One day his team is sent into space to stop a massive invasion of kaiju. They are defeated, and Tetsuo is placed in suspended animation, and decades later he returns to Earth to find Earth frozen over, and the remnants of humanity making do with eating kaiju meat. Some humans seem to have developed the ability to mentally control kaiju. Among them are remnants of the same Earth Defense Organization that Tetsuo was belonged to, calling themselves the Light of ERDE. Its leader, Sagami, was a soldier who grew intensely jealous of Tetsuo, and he basically is determined to destroy the Savior and take over that role himself. However, this volume reveals that he's an idiot, and he was manipulated by who is quite possibly the main antagonist, and I loved this fight. I loved how Tetsuo sort of beat Sagami and his kaiju. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how the series progresses. Just really, really fun. So, those were my 5 January pre-orders. I will be back tomorrow with more of my 2025 library tour. And until then, thank you. Have a great rest of your evening and stay safe.